On Friday, you guys did have this worksheet, and it's posted online as well. Initially, the plan on Friday was to do the whole thing because we were going to have a whole class period, but it ended up being shorter, so we just said you had to do the front of it. We're not actually going to do the back because I have a quiz review that will cover everything. The back is just law of cosines. You're welcome to do this on your own if you want extra practice, but I'm not going to require you to do the back just because I want to do a whole quiz review since we don't have that extra time. So you had to finish up to number 9 on this, and if you didn't submit it yet, you can still submit it online. It's on Classroom here. So make sure you submit that at some point. You just have to submit the front. And actually, if you want to check your work, if you scroll down, the answers are all there. Yeah, sure. Sure. So it wasn't anything new, but just practice with cosines, cosines. Alright, so as I mentioned, we're having a quiz tomorrow. With that on Friday. So we're going to do a quiz review today. Again, you have to do the front of that one from Friday. This one, we're going to do this. This is more specific for the quiz tomorrow. Yeah, it was just doing. So the only difference between this and what we did on Friday is this has both sines and cosines mixed together. So let's take a look at this. This is similar to what the quiz will be, except the quiz will be a little bit shorter. These, where you have to solve the triangles, can take a long time, so you'll just have a couple of those. But here's what the quiz is going to be over. This is, again, just your quiz and then maybe a little bit extra. But the big difference between this and what we did Friday, it's all the same content. It's mixed in, so you have to make the decision of how you're going to solve this. And we can refer to this chart might be kind of helpful. But basically, what you want to think when you look at any of these problems is: are you given 2 angles? If so, then you're going to do a law of sines. Or if you're given a side angle pair, you're going to do the law of sines. Otherwise, you're going to do the law of cosines. So let's take a look at that first one. We're asked to find BC. You might also want to change these in terms of like the little letters. BC would be the same as what little letter? Yeah, little a, right? Opposite of big A is a little. Okay. I'm going to put a little a. Now let's think. Are we going to do law of sines or cosines here? So ask yourself, is there 2 angles or is there a side angle pair? Yeah, there's 2 angles, right? 2 angles, so we're definitely going to do law of sines. Okay, so to do the law of sines, we do need a pair though, right? Do I have a pair yet? Not exactly, right? I got a side, but I don't have the angle opposite. That's okay though, because we can get that angle pretty easily, right? Just do the 180 minus to get that other angle. All right, you're just going to do 180 minus your 61 and minus 30, and then you're 89 degrees. Now we can do the law of sines because we got a pair. Law of sines is that sine of big A over little a, right? And sine of big B over little b. So we got our pair. Let's go ahead and write that. Sine of 89 over 8. And then we're asked to find little a, so we're going to want to include big A in there. Sine of 61 over little a. You do need to make sure when you do this that you're showing some work, so show me that you're setting this up using the law of sines. And here we cross multiply. Sine of 89a. And then 8 sine 61. And then it's just dividing by what's attached to the a. Make sure you're doing some of these on your own, especially the typing in. I'll give you some time to do that. To make sure you know how to do it, so it's not like tomorrow on the quiz the first time you've ever typed one of these into your calculator. Make sure you know how to type it in there correctly, because a lot of this is, do you know how to type this stuff in correct order. So what do we get for A? Round to the nearest tenth. Alright, that's all there is to it. Okay, let's try to find the measure of angle A in the next one. So the first thing we want to think, are we given a pair? Are we given two angles? If you do those, true, those would be law of sines. Yep, we got a pair here. We got big B and little b. So we can do sines. So let's write out that pair. That's where we always want to start. So our pair is sine of 62 over 28. We're asked to find big A, and we have little a, which is opposite of it. So we can go ahead and write this in as sine of big A. And we've done these a lot, so hopefully the solving it, should be used to like the pattern of solving. You know the answer? Right? What do you think it is? Sounds right. 25. Sine 62. Equals 28 sine A. Or cross multiply step. Now, anytime you're asked to find an angle, you're going to end up using the inverse. So we're going to divide first by 28. Divide first by 28, and then we'll take the inverse. And you can either go ahead and solve for that, and then do inverse sine of the A and S if you want to. Or you can just do the inverse sine of this whole fraction. And should get 52. Again, make sure you can type that in your calculator. Yeah, it's a little bit more challenging. The first thing you have to do on 3 is figure out if it's sine or cosines. Yeah, anytime you see side, 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 which is what this is, that's always going to be cosines. Because you got to know at least two angles to do the law, or at least one angle to do the law of sines. Okay, so no pair, no two angles, so definitely law of cosines for this. All right, we need to find big C. So if we're asked to find big C, we're going to use the only formula that has big C in it for the law of cosines. The law of cosines, I will write these out for you on the quiz tomorrow, right on the board or something. But it's little c squared equals little a squared plus little b squared minus 2 little a little b cosine of big C. The first and the last letter are always the same. Only one of those that has big C in it is the one that starts with little c. Can you find this? And if it's helpful, you can also label these. So this would be little c. This opposite of big B is little b. Opposite of big A is little a. If you want to do that, feel free to go ahead. We need to start with little c. Get 28 squared equals 12 squared plus 18 squared minus 2 times 12 times 18 times the cosine of big C, which we don't know that. Now this also has a certain order that you have to type it in. You could change it up a little bit, but the easiest way is to start by subtracting these two over. I'm going to write this out. You don't need to write this, but what I'm typing into my calculator is I'm just going to start by subtracting those two things over. So just do 28 squared minus 12 squared minus 18 squared. You get 316. And then this whole section here is all sort of a package. You can't like combine these all together. This is just all one term. So we want to multiply all those there. 2 times 12 times 18. That gives negative 432 cosine of big C. So we move these two over, and then we just multiply these. From there, to get big C by itself, we first need to divide. Divide by negative 432. You'll get some decimal, right? Now to get the big C, we have to do an inverse. So big C is the inverse cosine of whatever that answer was. You could even type that in if you want to. That's good. So let's just do your A and S. 137 degrees. Take a minute to type it in if you need to. Another thing to make sure you're doing is checking to make sure these make sense. So like this one, 137 for C, it seems reasonable. This is a really big angle and it's opposite of the biggest side, so it works. On these other ones, like this first one, we got 7. It was opposite of 61. This one, opposite of 89, was 8, so that seems reasonable. So just make sure they're matching up. Seems reasonable in comparison to the other side for the angles. Okay. Number 4, take a second and see if you can figure out whether that should be sines or cosines. So use your rules there. Is there 2 angles or is there an angle pair? It's going to be sines or cosines. Yeah? It's got to be cosines because we have no pair and we don't have 2 angles. So it's got to be all cosines. Alright, so we're asked to find AC, which is right here. It's the same thing as little b. Right? Well, if we're going to find little b, then we need the one that starts with little b, right? Little b squared equals. And if you wanted to label these, this would be little a, this would be little c. The order of those doesn't matter, but that would be 20 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 20 times 14 times the cosine of big B. It is 3. And this is one of the easier ones because you can just type the whole thing in and then take the square root. before you take the square root, you should get like 625. And obviously that would be wrong because this is 20 and this is 14. So just make sure you remember to get the square root. As long as you check your answers, you should definitely see that 625.3 is incorrect, right? Just make sure you do your second square root, second ANS. You should get 25. Which does seem reasonable. It's the longest side up to the biggest angle. So seems good. You guys feel pretty good about those ones done so far, hopefully? Alright, now solving them. I'm not going to give you as many as are on this worksheet, but these are good, these solving ones, because you actually have to do a bunch of them. So I'm not going to make you do a lot because it can take a while. But let's go ahead and see if we can do this. Solving a triangle means find all of the angles and sides. So our first thing we want to determine is if we're going to start with the law of sines or cosines to begin with. Yeah, sines because we're given two angles, right? So this one should be a little easier. You can solve it in any order. You can solve. We're looking for three things. Right? We're looking for big C. We need a little b over here and little a over here. We need to get those three variables. There's one that's really easy. Which one that's the easiest? Yeah, big C is really easy, right? Because we already have two angles. So we just need to do 180 minus those two. Go and get that one off the bat. Though you can at least get credit for that one even if you don't have to do anything else. 75 degrees. Okay, now we've got a pair. We got big C and little c. So that pair is going to be what we use to solve for the rest of them. We can now use the law of sines with our pair. Sine of big C, which is 75, over little c, which is 28. Then you can choose, you can either go after a little a or big A. Let's do little a just because it comes first in the alphabet. The little a matches up with that 64. Use sine of 64 over little a. We then cross multiply. Divide. Sine 75a. 28 sine 64. Yeah, it's like 0.1. Yeah. So we divide by sine of 75. Take a second, make sure you can do that. And you should get 26.1. Alright, so we got two of them. To get the third one, we have to just repeat the law of sines again. So we got to get little b. So we'll stick with our same ratio that we used to start. Sine 75 over 28. And for little b, we're going to match with big B. So sine of 41 over little b. And then it's just a cross and multiplying and dividing. Make sure these showing this ratio setup and then solving in here. Anybody got little b? Yeah, it should be the length. The next one, you should be able to tell right off the bat which one you're going to use. You're going to use sines or cosines. Why don't you take a minute, see if you can solve for one of the angles. You can solve for any one that you want. Generally, I just do A because it's A. See if you can solve for A using the law of cosines. So for big A, you should get 108.1. So we set it up here. Since we're solving for big A, we started with little a squared. And then we subtracted those two over to get 211. Multiply these out to get -80. Divide, and then take the inverse of this. Now, after we've done the law of cosines once, we don't have to do it again. You never actually have to do it more than once, because now we have a pair. We got a big A, little a here. We don't have to do that again. Now we can use the law of sines to get a different one. So to get, like, let's say let's do big B next. We got our pair, sine of 108.1 over 30 equals, and then our big B pair, which would be sine of big B. And then we would cross multiply and divide. And then inverse. And the last one will be easy because third angle is always fine. Inverse sine. Sure. How'd you get it? 14.5? I think it's 39.
Is that very long? Because I saw the big C first.
You should be able to work either way. So you should be 32.6. Yeah. So after you've got A and B, then the big C, there's just the 180 minus this two. Good with that? You got it?
I can put in one.
And then it's always good to double check your work in case it is easy. There's so many numbers, easy to type it in wrong.
No, I wrote this correct, so it's something.
Well, I mean, even like so checking it. So like this is the biggest angle opposite the biggest side. B a little bit bigger than this one, right? B is bigger than C, and then little b is bigger than little c. So just double check those things too. On the back, we do have a few more. Number 8, for whatever reason, we were doing that the first period. It didn't work that well. Just mark out number 8. You could still do it, but don't worry about number 8 right now. I don't think we'll do all of these, but I'll probably give you one of these where you have to draw your own triangle. So let's just do number 7. Finish with that one. So we're supposed to solve the triangle. Just given 3 things here. I would go ahead and draw one. So your ABC. It doesn't have to be proportional like the ones that they give you. And then you got your little a, little b, little c. And then the 3 things that it gives you. You got 110. Little b is 35. Little c is 30. So then the first thing you want to think, am I going to be using sines or cosines? Sines, yeah, because we're given a pair, right? We got c's, so we can just do the law of sines. All right, and then what's going to be the variable you solve for first? All right, big B, because we already got a little b. We don't know anything about a, so we can't do anything to solve that. But let's take our sine pair that we know. Sine of 110 over 38 equals sine of our big B over 35. Yes. Yeah. It doesn't say, but yeah, front and near length. Cross multiply. 35. 10. And we're going to be dividing and then doing the inverse. So it would be inverse sine this. We get 59.9 inches. You round to 60, then that's okay. Degrees. Okay, then what would be the next thing to get? Big A, right? Because we got 2 angles, so we can get a third. It's actually just 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Big A is, which obviously is not proportional on my drawing, but okay. Oh, we do know that little a should be significantly smaller than, right? It should be a lot smaller than. All right, so then how do we find little a? Use the same ratio we used here. There we go. 7110 over 38 equals sine of big A, which is 10.1 over the y. Cross multiply and divide. You should get 7.1. And that's it. So that's about how many questions you should expect on your quiz. Maybe one less, I don't know. But there's a couple extra here to practice. I'll let you just do those on your own if you want to. The last like 10 minutes, we're gonna practice those, and I'll write the answers up here so you can check your work. But you can try those too on your own. I'm gonna go to the right. I would solve them and you can check here. You do not have to turn in this. This does not have to be turned in, just to help make sure you know how to do the quiz tomorrow. You can do all these questions, you're able to get 100% or close to it.